What's going on, everybody? So we did the best movies of the year. We did my top 10. You can check that out for sure. And normally what I do is I'm not doing a worst of this year for a lot of different reasons. I've decided I'm not going to do those anymore. I mean, I'll talk. Obviously on my show I talk about what stinks, but I don't think a list on the worst is something I want to do this year. So I'm sure there's a lot of other ones out there, so you can check them out. But I do want to do the most anticipated. And I want to talk about what's coming out in 2023 that I cannot wait to see. That is so exciting for me. There's a lot of great ones. And one of the main reasons, because we really haven't had the movie business back in the way it's coming back in 2023 since the start of the pandemic. Since 2019 was the last big movie year for the summer and in general. Like 2020 obviously was nothing had come out. And 2021 started a little bit, and 2022 was significantly better. But in 2022, there was like one big release a month. And then when you look at the schedule for 2023, once you hit like March, there's like 2, 3, 4 sometimes big releases in the month. And it seems very reminiscent to the old school and the way it used to be that theaters are trying to bounce back. So I'm going to go through the top 10 most anticipated for me. Once again, this is my list. So I can't believe it's so high on your list, so low on your list. There's nothing to do with you as far as your list. If there's something that you would have put higher because that's what you're looking forward to seeing, I love that. That's amazing. If you're brand new to the channel, by the way, subscribe. Getting close to 70K. Getting close, but we need you to help. So if you're brand new, join on in. So I'm going to start off with a couple honorable mentions because this was a very hard list to make. I was going through, there was some that I had to cut at the last minute, one that made it into the list, and I was like, oh, I want to see it so much. I could have done really a top 20 and been okay because I left a lot of, all of the ones, basically every single one of these that's on the list of honorable mentions are movies that I am highly anticipating. And Spiderverse Man, it was number 10 and it got cut. It got cut, and I'll give my reasonings why it got cut in a second, for the movie that made it. But I'm very excited to see this movie. I can't wait to see the sequel to Spider-Verse. I think that the posters look good, the trailer looked good, it looked emotional, and I wish that I should have done a most anticipated 11 because it'd be number 11. I can't wait. Cocaine Bear is one that I'm curious about. I don't know how highly anticipated it is, but I'm very curious about it, and I want to see it because it has the possibility of being a surprise hit. 65 is one on my list that I didn't really know a lot about, but Adam Driver in this sci-fi movie is pretty interesting. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, wanted to make that on the list. I liked the last trailer, I liked the first movie, but just didn't cut it. Dungeons and Dragons, we'll see how that turns out. Super Mario Brothers is one that almost made it. Very excited for Super Mario Brothers. Absolutely. Fast 10, I'll be in the theater watching that one. This upcoming one, Transformers Rise of the Beast, I contemplated putting in there, and I would have never imagined that. But once I found out that it was Stephen Caple Jr. who was directing it, it became a lot higher anticipated for me. Barbie movie's interesting. The Marvels is an interesting one. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Expendables 4, Kraven the Hunter, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Wonka, Ghostbusters, Aquaman, all movies that I really wanted to see but just didn't make the list. So what the hell's the list then? What's your top 10? Well, number 10 for me is a little bit of I think that it might be a little bit of an unfair bias for why I have it in there, but I've also been anticipating it, and that's Blue Beetle, and that comes out in August. Blue Beetle starring Xolo Maridueña, who is a friend of the show, who I've had on the show many times, who I root for. I think is one of the brightest stars out there today. I think he's just a genuine, great human being, and I root for him. But I also root for the story of Blue Beetle. I root for what he told me about and the story of Jamie and all these, Jaime, I believe, and all of these, this story in general and how it's going to play, and the interesting note that this movie could eventually fit into the new DCU, depending on how it all plays out. It's not part of the old one, even though it was made during the old one. It's a confusing thing. But I do root for Xolo very much so. I am curious about this. I always like when it's a new superhero that I don't really know a lot about, and the idea that DC can really set a new franchise with this character, and I'm crossing my fingers. I'm looking forward to it. That one comes out in August. So that one, again, like I said, Sholo has become a friend of the show. So that's probably a little bit of a personal bias, but I also really am curious about that film. But that's why it makes number 10. Number 9, sticking in with DC, is The Flash. Now, this movie would have been a lot higher on my list had it not been for all the confusion that's going on with DC at the moment. And what does that mean? It's just, I don't know where it ties in. I don't know in general if it's going to be a throwaway movie, even if it is a great movie. Andy Muschietti, who directed the It movies, is directing it, and I really like his style. I think this could be a very, very solid movie. Early word is that it is incredible and that Michael Keaton steals the show. Michael Keaton returning as Batman had me through the moon. But the idea of what are they going to do, the betting odds are that this is the last time we're going to see Ezra Miller play the Flash, and my opinion, that's the right call. But I want to see how this is going to play out. I think that it's turned out to be a potential epic movie, and I think that the curiosity behind it, but still, it's number 9 because I also am very nostalgic, and I want to see Michael Keaton back as Batman, and I want to see he's in the voiceover for that trailer they showed at DC Fandom 2 years ago now. So they're going to show the trailer, I think, at Super Bowl. And I think it's going to start to get the hype train moving on it. So that's why it's number 9 for me. Staying in the comic book movie realm, for number 8 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, I have recently come around on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I'm not like a massive fan of it, but I used to really dislike it. I still think it's a little overly jokey. I still think that there's some things that I didn't love, but it has an emotional through line that I appreciate more now than I did in the past. But Volume 3 is from, I did not see the trailer at Comic-Con at San Diego, but I hear nothing but great things and how emotional it was. I did see what they showed, the trailer that dropped a couple of weeks ago, whatever it is, and it looks really solid. And I think it's the ending of this particular franchise. Some of the characters, someone's going to crap out for sure, whether it's Rocket, whoever it might be, but it is the journey. And after the Christmas special, I'm more attached to these characters. So, and I think because Phase 4, to me anyway, was a little bit more of a letdown than the other phases, and that Black Panther Wakanda Forever was a kind of push into what the tone of what what I enjoyed about Marvel, that I'm hoping that continues on with these other movies coming out in Phase 5, and Guardians being one of those. So yes, there'll be some humor, and obviously it's James Gunn and it's the Guardians, and they call for that. But the balance in general, I think we're looking at a very emotional film here. So number 8 is Guardians Volume 3. So 7, that would be Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan. I'm a massive Christopher Nolan fan. His movies, when they come out, they are like events. So having this come out, I have not watched the trailer yet for Oppenheimer. I know people are like, how come? Why not? I'm going to try, and I know I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm going to try to avoid all trailers until the movie hits. But like I said, I think it is highly unlikely that I will be able to, I'll be able to do that. But I'm very curious to see it, and I love the cast. It's like I said, I think that Nolan has that thing where there are very few movie stars out there, but there are a couple of directors that when they put a movie out, whether it's a Tarantino, a Jordan Peele, and then Christopher Nolan, when they have their movies, the new Nolan movie's coming out, the new Tarantino movie's coming out, the new Jordan Peele movie's coming out. And there's other directors that do that as well, but that's more so of a director thing now than, say, 20 years ago when, the new Tom Cruise movie's coming out, the new Will Smith movie's coming out, the new, whatever it might be, Julia Roberts movie's coming out. That doesn't happen as much anymore with the movie star, but it happens with directors, and Nolan is one of those. So Oppenheimer is, for me, at 7. Jumping back into the comic book movie realm, and then we get AntMan Quantumania at number 6. Now, this is like, if you asked me I now would probably, a couple of months ago, I would have definitely ranked Ant-Man 2 over Guardians 2, and that has shifted. Just watched Ant-Man 2 recently with my daughter. We're doing a rewatch, or I'm rewatching Marvel. She's watching it for the first time, the MCU, and I still think it's a fine movie, the second movie, but it is a bit, it's a bit more hokey than even the first one was, and it's but this one, Quantumania is going to really introduce Kang for the first time. It is going to highlight Jonathan Majors. To me, I think Jonathan Majors is the next big superstar. And I think that this movie, from what I've seen so far, I'm a little hesitant about the overuse of the volume and the way that the trailers looked. It looked a little like heavy on that, but with the Quantumania, with the quantum realm, that maybe you can forgive it. Maybe it works. We'll see. But the idea of having this, and whether or not, I mean, there's rumors about Fantastic Four, who knows, but the idea of this more intense, and as I mentioned when I was talking about Guardians, the tone, this is the first movie out since Wakanda Forever. So this has to be the tone. And if you listen to Peyton Reed's comments about how they wanted to make this on more of an Avengers level than the other two, which were more like palate cleansers, that also gets me excited. And it's the third movie in the franchise. And it's this idea of what kind of threat Kang is going to be. It's his first introduction, so I think it's going to be a major impact. So that's why I'm putting AntMan Quantumania at number 6. Now, number 5, I'm going to throw a little disclaimer on here because I'm not sure if it's actually coming out in 2023 because it was supposed to come out in 2022. It never did. I'm not sure if it's going to. It's listed as coming out in March or April of 2023, but this could change because I couldn't find anything else, and that is Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. And I only know a little bit about a period piece, kind of detective story type thing, and that's all I need to know. It's very similar to Oppenheimer, and as I mentioned, Scorsese is another one where you go, it's the new Scorsese movie, and I want to check it out. Him and DiCaprio, it's similar to what him and De Niro was years ago. Now it's him and DiCaprio. So when these guys join up together, you're gonna get me. Whether it's Wolf of Wall Street, whether it's Departed, whatever it might be, these guys joining up ultimately puts it on my anticipated like that. Wolf of Wall Street is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I'm curious to see what happens and how it plays, but does it come out in 2023? So if it does not, then obviously this would bump off my list, and then Spider-Verse would move in at that 10 spot. But right now, Killers of the Flower Moon is at my 5 spot. I'm very, very interested for that one. I hope it comes out. I'd like to see it. And plus, I like the balance of, as I mentioned, there's a few comic book movies on here, but there's also a few other movies and there's other movies that are probably coming out later in the year from like October to December that are more like the Oscar bait type movies that I always get excited about. I just hear about them later. And right now, that's what I got at number 5. Now, number 4. Oh, number 4 was tough. I almost put it at 3, but I moved it to 4, and that's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. This franchise, I think, has done what no other franchise has really done. Some people will say Fast and the Furious, but I think even Fast and the Furious over the last couple of I was gonna say episodes, the last couple of movies have gone a little bit more into the cartoonish and lost a few people, as where I think Mission Impossible is that rare thing where it just keeps getting better. And when you look at the cuckoo wacky shit that Tom Cruise keeps doing for stunts, he's jumping off planes, he's going backwards. I watched the thing from the last one where he's on the motorcycle and he jumps off a cliff, and who knows what this lunatic's going to do. And I think that he's starting to get that kind of Jackie Chan thing where you want to go and see not only just the movie and the quality of the movie, but you want to see what this madman's going to do next, because he's in Top Gun Maverick, he's flying up at whatever altitude it is and doing these things. He doesn't. And is he an adrenaline junkie? Yes, but I do believe very much so that he's also doing it for the audience and wanting the audience to go, whoa, look at that crazy thing that just happened. And I think you're going to get a lot of that, and you're going to get Part 1, and I think Part 2 closes out the entire series, which comes out next year. But I've been invested in this series for a while. I only think the only weak link in this entire series to me is the second one. I've watched that recently. It's not great. It's not as terrible as I remember watching in the theater. It's a little bit more dopey than the other ones, but from 3 on, it just gets better and better and better and better. And I have no doubt that Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 is going to be pretty fantastic. So speaking of franchises and speaking of movies that are just, the next couple are just all franchise movies and movies that I've just been like just rubbing my hands, waiting for all these movies to come out. And I could have moved 1 through 3 around at any spot, because you will find me in the theater with popcorn and just like a little kid staring at the screen for the last 3 movies. And the first one coming in at number 3 is John Wick Chapter 4. These have been just solid movies, as I just mentioned with it's freaking bug guy, scumbag. John Wick was a movie that just it was to me very similar with the way when Jason Bourne was created for Matt Damon, even though we know that Keanu Reeves was already established as an action star with The Matrix, but he had like these waves, right? And then John Wick comes out, and it's just this absolutely the gun fu stuff, and it has a cool story and this world building that they've done from 1 all the way to 3, and the way that they've built out this legend of the Baba Yaga, and now moving in, they've been doing spin-off series, but this 4th trailer is so good, and Donnie Yen being in this movie, this is something that I love watching them, and they very similar to Bourne, and this is a compliment to it. They all kind of blend in together into like one cohesive movie, like, and I don't know if 4 will do that, but it's very similar to Bourne. Bourne was, you watch 1 through 3, if you mention a moment from one of those movies, I love all 3 of those movies, but if you mention maybe a movie from it, a moment from one of those movies, I go, which one was that? Was it 2 or 3 ahead of that? Because they all play like one big movie. And I feel like that's what John Wick has done so far. I can't wait to see how it continues on. So yeah, John Wick Chapter 4 is my number 3. Number 2, sticking with franchises and talking about Jonathan Majors, we're going Creed 3. Now, if you heard me talk about the whole situation, you'd probably be surprised that I have it so high. I don't like the way Stallone was treated. I don't like the way what happened with Stallone. And I know there's a lot of people out there who feel like, Stallone was the one who made his bed, sold Rocky, did all that stuff. But I have my own thoughts on the matter, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the actual movie itself, Creed 3, Michael B. Jordan directing it. And what I'm not going to agree with Stallone on, even though he's got the right to, he created the characters. He said he doesn't like where this goes in this kind of darker direction, but that's where they're taking the character of Adonis. That's where, and he has got this moment there where it looks like it's like a mixture of both Rocky 3 and Rocky 5 combined. And I really, really am a big fan, as I mentioned, of Jonathan Majors. So I think that this is going to be a major standout role to him. It's also a massive move for Michael B. Jordan, who's directing this film. And I think people are going to have their words about whether or not Stallone's in it or not. And what I hope is that what would be the stupidest thing in the world, and I don't believe that they'll do it, is that they kill Rocky off screen. I can't imagine they would do that. What I really hope happens is that this movie is super successful. It's as good as I hope it's going to be. And then in Creed 4, if they do Creed 4, they can bring back Rocky. That's my goal. So they can talk it out, make everything happy. But either way, the movie itself is highly anticipated. They moved it. It was supposed to be in 2022. They moved it to 2023. It's coming out in March, and it's one that I cannot wait to see. So number 1, you probably have guessed it, maybe not. You've heard me gush about it for a long, long time. And one of my favorite franchises of all time is Indiana Jones. So Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is the name of this movie. I love the first one. I really enjoy the second movie. Now, I understand that if you saw Temple of Doom years and years and years later, then you probably go, that is a hokey, kind of cheesy B movie. I understand that. I've got the nostalgia thing for seeing it as a kid, and I still there's certain things, like when I was a little kid, the Mola Ram scared the shit out of me. So I really enjoyed it, and but I tried to watch it with my wife recently. She's like, "This is terrible." I said, "I understand." The third movie is just as good. I'd say Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of my favorite movies of all time, and then I would say Last Crusade is up there. It's similar to the argument of Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. There are a lot of people who love Terminator 2 better than 1. There's a lot of people who love Last Crusade better than Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm on both sides of the coin, where I like Terminator 1 better than I like Terminator 2, and I like Raiders of the Lost Ark better than Last Crusade, but I love Last Crusade. The Crystal Skull is farts. I'm sorry. I had a whole conversation with Josh Robert Thompson about it. I get the 1940s B movie serialization type thing that they were going for. There's nothing about that movie that I really like. I don't believe anybody's really tuned into it, and I think that I was not one of those people like, God, I'm making another one? Why? The last one was so bad. I was the opposite. I was like, wait a minute. They can really redeem themselves for the last one. They can make a good Indiana Jones movie. Please do. And I loved West Side Story. I loved The Fabelmans. And those are the movies I am so glad that Steven Spielberg is making. For some reason, I don't know. I could be 100% wrong. It's just what I'm noticing. I don't think his heart's into the big blockbuster stuff, directing them now. I think he likes to tell these stories that he's been telling. That's why he's been telling them so good, whether it's The Post, whether it's, Bridge of Spies, whether it's whatever it is. These are the movies I think he's enjoying making now. And the big blockbuster movies is one of the reasons why he decided not to do Indiana Jones, the new one. I'm a massive James Mangold fan. Both Ford versus Ferrari and Logan are, I mean, he's done so many, Copland, so many different movies, but I loved this trailer when they showed it. He's another one like James Gunn, though. I wish that, I appreciate him going out and tweeting back at people and saying these reports of what you're saying is just to, stir and it's BS. Don't listen to it. I just wish he'd stay off Twitter. Let his work speak for itself. He's put out really, really good movies over the last couple of years. There's going to be people, no matter what, are just going to scream and yell and talk about, oh, it's going to be this, it's going to be woke, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. Just let the movie speak for itself. Now, look, I could see this movie and they can make some choices in this. I'm like, I wish I didn't do that. It looked like you were going to make a good movie, and then it turned out to be. Now, I haven't seen James Mangold do that yet. I've seen James Mangold be able to tell you a great story. The only problem I had in that entire trailer was the bad CGI when Indy was on the horse. And the movie's not out until June, so hopefully they can fix it. But other than that, I'm pumped for that one, man. I can't wait. John Williams, Harrison Ford actually looks like he's playing Indiana Jones again. He's not just Harrison Ford there for the payday. So that's my list. Again, 10, Blue Beetle. 9, The Flash. 8, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. 7, Oppenheimer. 6, AntMan Quantumania. 5, Killers of the Flower Moon. Killers of the Flower Moon. 4, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1. 3, John Wick Chapter 4. 2, Creed 3. And number 1, Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny, with a few other ones on the list for honorable mentions. So then I turned it to you. Did I miss something? Did I not miss something? What do you want to see? Give me your list, and I'm all for it, man. Comment like that. One of the main things, if you've never commented before, give me your list. Give me your top 10. Give me a couple in general. Which are the ones that you are really pumped that you have to see? You got to see them in the theater. You can't miss it. You're taking your family. You're taking your friends. You're taking whoever. You're going by yourself. What is it that you are anticipating? So if you're not doing it already, please subscribe to that channel. That's it. Hit the button. Trying to get to 70,000. Appreciate you guys so much. It's been a blast. I love you. Have a great, great rest of the year. Enjoy 2023. Let's get at it. Peace.